Triple Studios and Mystery Murder and Magic proudly present the Weekend Weird Files. Here's your host, Andrea.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's edition of the Weekend Weird Files, and this one definitely fits the name, so let's dig right in. Well, back in 1726, a lady by the name of Mary Toft pulled off the biggest hoax of its time. Mary's hoax fooled the greatest doctors, scientists, and even the King of England, where she was from. But let's talk just a little bit about Mary first. She came from a very poor town. It was like a small village that was about 40 miles away from London. She was very poor. She was illiterate. At the age of 17, she married a man by the name of Joshua. Soon after that, they had 2 kids. Now, every morning, she had to walk like 2 hours to work in the hops fields. When she was 25 years old is when it all started with her hoax. Mary delivered what was described as her first monster. Back then, it was very common for peasant women to have miscarriages because they had to continue working grueling jobs, like out in the fields, as the maids or whatever for, the people that were higher up in society or whatever. But they had to keep working, and it often led to them having miscarriages. So once she was delivering what she was delivering, her family called in the village's obstetrician to help her. And he described what she delivered as having 3 cat legs that were the color of a tabby cat and 1 rabbit leg. The guts of what she gave birth to were those of a cat, and the guts contained the backbone of an eel. Very odd, I know. On another occasion, Mary gave birth to 9 dead baby rabbits. The obstetrician, who was stunned over all of this, he wrote letters to the most well-known doctors and scientists of England, and he also sent a letter to the secretary of King George I. And the king, he sent 2 men to investigate. Well, it seems that Mary was becoming quite the celebrity, and she was moved to a bigger town. And each time she gave birth to a rabbit, the doctor would place it in a jar to preserve and study it. When the 2 men arrived that the king had sent, Mary had just given birth to her 15th baby rabbit. And while they were there, they were able to observe her give birth to a few more baby rabbits. Lucky them, right? After examining the rabbits, they concluded that these rabbits could not have originated in Mary's body. I mean, duh, you think? And here's why they thought that, or why they said that. One of the rabbits' stomach contained remnants of grass and hay. Some of the rabbits she had supposedly given birth to, they did appear to be fetuses, but other ones were around 3 months old. But then, just in case, one of the noblemen that the king had sent, he took one of the preserved rabbits back to the king. Well, Mary explained all of this by saying that she had been working in the field when she became frightened by a rabbit. Back in those days, it was very commonly thought that if a pregnant woman was startled by something, it would leave that impression on the baby that the woman was carrying. They called this maternal impression. So, the noble people, they bought into it, the nobleman, the doctor, whatever. So, the thing is other doctors and scientists and midwives, they didn't believe it for 1 second. After that, Mary was taken to a bathhouse so that she could be observed further. Now, I'm not 100% sure what a bathhouse is, but I believe it's probably something along the lines of maybe a hospital or, I don't know. It just says that, they wanted to observe her more, so that's where she was taken. And the funny thing is once she was there, she didn't give birth to any more rabbits, but she became very sick. And I imagine she would because, after having, rabbits shoved into your female parts, I'm sure that it could have led to, infection And honestly, I'm surprised that she didn't die of everything that her body had went through. Well, during that time also, a porter was discovered sneaking a rabbit into Mary's room. And he explained that Mary's sister-in-law, Margaret, had instructed him to bring the smallest rabbit that he could find. So it sounds like her sister-in-law, Margaret, was in on this hoax too. So, they started questioning Mary, and she insisted that, she had given birth to all these rabbits, and she stuck to that story until a doctor by the name of Dr. Manningham threatened to perform surgery to see if she had strange reproductive organs. So that's when she started fessing up. And even though she started confessing, she never really took the full blame for it. She blamed her husband and her mother-in-law and a few other people along the way. That hoax became like a media sensation. It ran the papers for quite some time, and not only did Mary get talked about a lot in the papers, her doctors were kind of ridiculed for believing that all that was going on to begin with. But before it was all over, and before that year was over, she was charged with notorious and vile cheat and was sentenced to 4 months at Bridewell Prison. After she was released from prison, though, she kind of vanished back into obscurity, and she died at the age of 60 in 1763. So had you ever heard this story? I'm interested to know what you guys think. As always, you can send us an email. Our email address is the number 3, the letter M as in Mary, podcast, and then the number 3 again at gmail.com. Or, if you want to come to our Facebook page and send us a message, or comment on anything, you're more than welcome to do that too. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/3M podcast. But that's all I've got for this weekend's Weird Files. A new full-length episode will be up Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. So, be waiting for that, and y'all have a good weekend.